Hey guys, if you follow any dog training content on social media, you might have seen a recent uptick in a particular technique that can be very dangerous and damaging to dogs. It's referred to as helicoptering, hanging, or even stringing up a dog. And it looks kind of something like this, where the person is holding the leash and they're holding the dog off the ground. Sometimes their back paws are on the ground and sometimes not. And they're really just holding the dog up there because of aggressive behavior. It might look like it works because sometimes the dog stops the aggressive behavior pretty quickly. However, the reason why the dog is not continuing with their aggression is because they're literally trying to catch their breath and get air, or the technique is so aversive and painful enough that the dog is just saying, I will stop what I'm doing if you stop what you're doing. Obviously, the problem with that is it's not addressing the underlying reason for the dog's aggressive behavior. In fact, we might make things a lot worse by increasing things like fear, pain, discomfort, stress, anxiety, frustration, all of the things we're trying to avoid in the first place, and often what's causing the aggressive behavior to begin with. So, I'm going to walk you through a few different things we can do in these cases so we don't have to resort to a technique like that. Three of the variables we can always control are distance, duration, and intensity. So, as a trainer or behavior consultant, I can set things up so that the dog doesn't feel the need to display the aggression in the first place. One of the key concepts there is distance. So, whether it's 5 feet or 500 feet, there's always a distance at which a dog is not going to respond aggressively towards their trigger or whatever they're having an issue with in their environment because they're going to be far enough away. And our job as trainers and consultants is to make sure we're far enough away at first. The goal is, of course, to decrease distance over time, but we can always get that distance first in most cases. I know sometimes it's not possible, and there's workarounds for that as well, but usually we can get enough distance from a dog where they don't feel threatened by our proximity. The next thing to look at is the intensity of what you're doing. So, whether it's something I am maybe tossing treats to the dog and I'm moving my hand too quickly, or maybe I need to remove my hat and sunglasses, for instance, to help the dog feel safer around me. But certainly grabbing a leash from the guardian's hand and holding it, and me being right next to the dog, is increasing the intensity quite significantly. So, my goal, again, as a trainer consultant, is to really reduce the intensity of what I'm doing so that dog feels safer. And last but not least is the duration. So, somewhat like we can learn how to swim, but then there's a shark in the waters, right? There's only, even if somebody promises that shark's behind a cage, it's way off in the distance, there's only a certain amount of time I might be able to tolerate that. And the same thing for dogs. When they're learning to feel safe around something, or when I'm learning how to swim with sharks, I'm going to want to feel safe. And I'm going to maybe only be able to tolerate for that for so long. So I do like to keep the sessions short with the goal of eventually being saying, I can totally swim with sharks because I'm fine with them in the environment. So those are the three variables that can often be controlled, and a good trainer consultant is going to control those variables so we don't have to see the aggressive behavior, so we don't have to string up the dog like that. Here's a few video examples of that. So here's a Doberman case where the dog is displaying aggressive behavior towards me. This dog does have a bite history. And what I need to do is, of course, get distance. So we start to move outside, and you can see the guardian here is the one feeding the treats, which is reinforcing desirable behavior as well as pairing a positive association with me being there. And that's my goal, is to build a trusting relationship with that dog so I don't have to hold that leash in a way that's stringing them up if they try to bite me. Now, this is me holding the leash on the second session after I've established that relationship with the dog. And you can see a much different demeanor in this case where the dog is moving along with me and not trying to attack me. Another case here with a German Shepherd. You can see this dog comes out with aggressive behavior. And same principle here applies. This dog also has a bite history, by the way, and we work outside. I increase distance. That is the guardian doing a great job keeping the dog comfortable at a distance and pairing my arrival with food happening, which allows me to hold the leash and handle the leash in a way that the dog doesn't find aversive. This can also work with other people. So it doesn't always have to be the trainer or the consultant we're trying to have the dog get used to and become friends with. This is an American Staffordshire case, also has a bite history. And sometimes you can bring in friends to do this. So here's my friend Angela. You'll see her in a second on the left. And we're working at a distance, getting this dog comfortable with the proximity. And of course, you decrease distance as you move along, and the dog indicates they're comfortable with that. and you're going to be able
Another
to make
pass by
progress moving forward.
that way.
And
So
so in
she's
this
going to be
next part of
looking
the
at him
video,
this
you'll
time, which
see
makes
the neighbor. This is a neighbor that the dog actually tried to bite at one point, and you can see just how well they're getting along. So you can see there's no reason that we would need to put that stringing up into a behavior change strategy. Now, I wanted to mention a couple things that usually come up when I'm showing videos like this. Number one is some of these dogs are displaying some aggressive behavior. And that is because in some situations, it is impossible to get the distance we need because of liability and safety risks. So sometimes I do have to meet the dog on property, but that should be far and few between. So those videos I had to select out of thousands of cases because most of the time it's like watching paint dry. It should look very, very boring to anybody watching it because you've set things up the right way. The other thing to think about is that particular technique of using the leash to keep a dog away from you may be employed in emergency scenarios. So, in an emergency situation where a dog does try to bite you, and maybe we've gone along in the program and you've gotten close to the dog, but for some reason they decide to try to bite you, that can be used as an emergency handling technique. But it is never okay to use that as part of your training and behavior change strategies. We can do better with dogs, so please spread the message.